everyone, it's Nell, and I'm here today with my July reading wrap-up. In the month of July, I completed 7 books. 6 of those were audiobooks, 1 was a physical book, and 1 I DNF'd. The first book I read was Unburied Carol by Josh Malerman. I had read The Bird Box a few years ago. It had some issues, especially with the ending, but I thought that there was something incredibly amazing about his writing. In that book, the main characters can't see anything. When they go outside, they have to cover their eyes. And for a book, which is usually tapping into more of your visual senses, to completely eliminate that and have to have everything be on touch and smell and auditory, it was just, there was something amazing about it. I was excited to see how he had evolved as a writer and check out his new book. Unburied Carol is about a woman who has died before, and only a few other characters in the book know about her ability, and one of them may be trying to kill her to take her fortune. This unfortunately was the book that I didn't finish this month. I made it about 30% of the way through this book. I found it confusing. The world wasn't very fleshed out. None of the characters were very likable. So I ended up passing on this one for this month. If you enjoyed this book, please leave me a comment in the comment section down below. I'm willing to give this one another shot. I really wanted to enjoy the story, but just based on the little bit that I did make it through, I just don't think it was for me. The next book I read was One Heart to Win by Joanna Lindsey. This is a historical romance novel. It is the first in the Callahan Warren series. I think there's 3 novels in that series. I have a long history with historical romance novels. For me, they were pretty much my young adult book. That's what me and my friends all read in middle school and high school. Joanna Lindsey was one of the authors that I read so much of her work in, again, about high school. I thought this might be a fun, kind of nostalgic type read, but this book had way too much going on. The plot was so convoluted. It's only, I think, 300 or 400 pages. Again, it's a romance novel, so you think that you're going to be focusing on the 2 main characters and their relationship, but I felt like that was completely glossed over in this novel. The basic premise of this story is there are 2 feuding families, and I think they're in Montana. They're feuding over some common watering hole for their cattle, and it gets even more complicated from there. The mother of one of the families flees to New York with her daughter. We learn later why she did that. But before she left, she made a pact with the other family saying that her daughter would marry their son when they came of age. So the mom took the daughter, they went to New York, and then 18, 20 some odd years later, Tiffany then has to return to Montana to marry her planned husband, Hunter. Again, there was way too much going on in this novel. There was not a whole lot of focus as far as who is the villain? Why are these families feuding? The love interest even. It's a romance. It should be pretty clear. But in the first half of it, there were 2 or 3 other characters I thought, oh, is this going to be our hero of the novel? Is this going to be our love interest? And so I had to read the back of the book to make sure who the love interest was. Historical romance novels usually are not very good, but for me, it's entertaining. It's like watching a bad movie or Mystery Science Theater. There's just some sort of fun entertainment value in bad fiction, but this one was just plain bad. The plot was all over the place. The steamy scenes were glossed over and almost non-existent. I won't be continuing with this series, and I generously gave this book 2 stars. The next book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is a young adult fantasy novel and the first novel in the Grishaverse. There is the original trilogy, and then there's a new duology that she released in the same world. This is the first of her novels that I have read. I found it interesting enough, but it didn't seem super exciting or original. I'm kind of late coming to the party for this. This is a little bit older novel, so it might have seemed new and interesting if I had read it when it first came out, but after reading so much in this genre, it just didn't bring anything new to the table. That could have been also because I didn't feel like the world was as fleshed out as it needed to be. You have the fold and the Volcra and the Grisha, and we get all these terms and everything. I feel like it could have had an extra 100 to 200 pages to really flesh out the world and flesh out the magic. The characters were interesting, but I don't think that she did everything with them that she could have done. The Darkling was by far the best character in my opinion. We got so much about him. He was mysterious. Elements were revealed at the right times for him. But the other characters in this, Alina and Mal, I felt were a little bit too flat as characters. I feel like if we would have had more with those two interacting, more flashbacks to their youth, it could have really helped to intrigue me and pull me more into the story. I was mildly interested in the story. There was nothing that really sucked me in and compelled me to continue with the series. I probably will continue with the series, maybe on audiobook. This was the only physical book of the month that I actually read, and it was all right. It was good. It was good enough. I'm interested to see where the story goes. But as a whole, I thought it was just so-so. I gave this book 3 stars. The next book I read was The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. I've already done a full review of this novel, and I will link that down below. This is a modern gothic mystery suspense novel. It was the second Ruth Ware book that I read, and by far, I think the superior book. I had read previously The Woman in Cabin 10. It was good. This one was so much better as far as the pacing, the setting, the plot. I really enjoyed this book. I thought the setting was so much fun. The plot was pretty good. I did see the ending coming. It was a little bit predictable, but overall it was a really fun read. I gave this one 3.5 stars. The next book I read was The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I really enjoyed this one. This is a suspense thriller about a family vacationing in this isolated cabin in the woods. And while they're there on vacation, these strangers appear. This was such a good, fun book. It starts off feeling kind of like a horror movie. You're not sure what's going to happen. And as the plot starts to unravel, it becomes such a unique story. I really enjoyed this one. It was a little bit short. I could have had a little bit more detail. And the ending, while good, didn't pack the awesome punch that I feel like it maybe could have, but that might just be because of my own expectations. I always want a perfect novel, and there aren't any. But I really enjoyed this novel. I love this novel. I thought that especially Wen, as a 7-year-old, gave a really unique perspective to this book. I feel without her, this book could have been a little bit flat. She added, again, a great dimension to this, a great perspective, and I really ended up enjoying this novel. I gave this one 4 stars. Next, I read another historical romance novel. These were just what were available through my library. The next book I read was Any Duchess Will Do by Tessa Dare. This is a historical romance set in England, and it is book, I believe, 4 in the Spindle Cove series. I haven't read any of the other ones in this series, so I don't know if you're supposed to read them in order. They're romance novels. I don't know how much you could really spoil. Boy meets girl. There's some sort of conflict. Boy ends up with girl. This book, however, for a romance novel was really, really good. I really did enjoy this one. This is about Griffin. He is a duke, and he is in need of a wife. His mother takes him up to Spindle Cove. His mother takes him to find a bride. To be sort of an asshole to her, he picks out one of the serving girls, Pauline. They sort of make a pact. They're both sort of aware that they're not really going to get married, but she's going to get money out of it. He's going to satisfy his mother for the time being. So they kind of go into this with this sort of mutual pact of we'll give this a week or 2 or however long. And then we'll both go our separate ways. But as they spend time together and get to know each other, feelings start to develop, and it's so funny and witty and cute and charming. And Pauline is an awesome character. She is so ballsy as a lady. She has so much heart. I love her with her sister. I believe her name was Danielle. Griff and his backstory. Again, I don't know if this would have been better if I would have read the other novels in this series, but I really, really enjoyed this one. I will definitely be picking up some more Tessa Dare in the future. I really enjoyed this one. It was fun. It was steamy. It was pretty much everything you can hope for in a romance novel. It's not the most amazing book, and I really have a hard time giving these novels a 5 out of 5 stars because, again, you know the plot going into them as far as it's going to have a happy ending. There's nothing, I guess, new brought to the table, but the characters are just so much fun. It's an enjoyable read. Again, 4.5 stars. The last book I read for the month was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is a YA contemporary novel. This is about an African-American teenager who witnesses her friend fatally shot by a police officer, And then it kind of goes into the two worlds that she has in this. She has a predominantly white school that she attends, so we get that perspective. And then she has a predominantly Black neighborhood that she lives in. This is an absolutely fantastic novel. I loved every minute of this. It's so socially relevant right now with everything that's going on. It is relatable. It is educational. It is, I think, everything that you would want in a novel. You have enjoyable characters, you have emotions, you have just everything. I did a full review for this, so I'll leave that link down below as well. This is by far one of the best books that I have read this year. It's being made into a movie later this year. I think it's set to come out in October, so I'll definitely be checking out the movie. I might do a video comparing those two. This was definitely the best book that I read this month, and again, one of the best books that I've read so far this year. 5 out of 5 stars. All right, everybody, those were the 7 books that I read in the month of July. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure to hit subscribe, and I will have a new video for you soon. Bye!